Degeneration of the brain. Well, without keeping your marbles, you haven't got a chance at this. You got to be smart to do this. They'll tell you haven't got to be smart, but they're smart. Believe me, the people at the top in here are smart. So let's just have a quick look at the brain, your miracle brain. And it is a miracle. And I want you to appreciate it. During fetal development, it develops 10 billion cells with trillions of precise connections. Every connection is integrated in the proper place to do this, something as complicated as cognition. We don't have a machine that even could do one tiny bit of it. But beside the human brain, as it's developing the fetus, the cell phone is like a matchstick. It's nothing. And yet, it has all these things, and it develops and grows, and the knowledge that it acquires is from the knowledge that's fed into it. So be careful what you listen to, because that becomes what you know. The brain is absolutely programmed to continuously learn and learn and learn. It doesn't have to, you don't have to use any software. The software is all built in. We have massive software. Do you know that a newborn child can understand trigonometry, and we then have to teach it laboriously at school? Because 100 years ago, when the school systems were developed, we didn't know that newborns knew trigonometry. We didn't know. We only know it from maybe the last 30 years. That we have software programs built in that are so complex that, as I say, they make your cell phone look like a matchstick. And what do we do for this brain? It's not part of our culture to look after it. It's not. We clean our teeth every day. We floss them and we clean them, and we don't miss because we don't want them to go bad. Yet teeth are very simple. They're actually the dead ends of bone. And yet we look after them because we know, we have learned, our culture has learned that if you look after your teeth, you will keep them for life. And I don't know how many are as old as me or can think back, but I used to go into my parents' bedroom in the morning when I was a child, and there were 2 glasses on the bedstands with teeth in them. They were both my parents' teeth. And that was very common in those times. It's very uncommon today because we've learned how to do it. And our culture says this is what you have to do, and we have learned to do it, and we keep our teeth. And it will come. It is not there yet. I can tell you, looking after the brain is not a very popular subject. People don't even want to talk about it because they've seen the downside, the dark side of it in their older relatives and things who have got brain degeneration. And so it's generally ignored. It's not part of our culture to look after the brain. But if you don't look after it, that very, very complicated thing, it is going to fail you. It's going to fail you. In 2011, Barack Obama signed the National Alzheimer's Protection Act. And that act acknowledges that there is no current effective treatment for loss of cognition with age. None. The drugs don't work. Nothing works. And we know why it doesn't work. We know how it happens, and we know why the drugs and things don't work, because they're too late. When brain degeneration becomes obvious, it is not like a cut. It's like losing a leg. All the structures have gone inside. It's not like just something that can heal up. It can't heal up. So the time to look after your brain is now. Now, Obama has committed $100 million in research, and he's already giving out the grants. And in fact, I'm already a bit of one of these grants to find a treatment by 2025. And I spoke to Francis Collins, who's head of the NIH, and I said, Francis, why can't we use the science we've got now and do it now? He said, no, it's got to go through the FDA. It takes 11 to 13 years for any treatment to start from zero and go through the FDA and come out the other end. So I'm asking you, how many people here can afford to wait until 2025 to start looking after their brain? I certainly can't. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't advise it. And that's one reason why I took my brain research out of Big Pharma. I had my brain research in Big Pharma, but it was a long job. And I took it out of Big Pharma and I put it into nutraceutical research, because nutraceutical research does not require FDA approval. So you can do it immediately. And we have done it. We have taken the best of the science over the last 10 years from all around the world, and we have developed a program that I think is the best out there. And this has huge and miraculous power. If you realize we developed everything, all our science, all our art, all our technology, from a planet that was just sticks and rocks. Everything. Just think, and you have this power built into you. The brains of people in Asia who can't read and never will be able to read because nobody will give them the information. They don't look after their brains either, but their brains are as good as ours. If people gave them the information to learn to read and write, they would. But according to the World Health Organization, there are 700 million people in the world that have a brain as good as you and me who will never learn to read and write. They will go through their life ignorant, never able to use a computer, never able to use a cell phone, not even able to read a book. And if you think you can't, that you can become educated without reading books and without getting to educated people, you can't. To think it all up on your own, we are only as educated as we are now because of the people that lived before us. When we look out there, the earth still looks flat. If it hadn't been for Kepler and people like that, we would think it was flat. We still would. In fact, there's still a flat earth society where people do think it's flat. So, we took the best of all of the research and we put it together, and we came up with about 100 substances that were not drugs, that were extracts from natural substances, which are much more likely to get on with our DNA than anything that's never been around before, which is most of the drugs that you see out there. They've only been around for 100 years or less. And our DNA knows nothing about them. And so it can't deal with them very well. And that's why you have every drug that you see listed on TV, you see all of the side effects that it can produce, because our DNA doesn't know what to do with it, because it never experienced it in its evolution. So we took all the substances that we knew that had been there for thousands and thousands of years. And then we looked at all of the controlled trials to see which ones had been really effective in stimulating brain function of various kinds: memory, attention, brain speed, problem solving, all of those things. And we came up with a list of more than 100 substances. And then we had to eliminate all of those that there was possible allergic reactions, that if people took too much of them it would be toxic, or there were sensitivities of various kinds, or that they were too expensive. There were a lot that were too expensive. And we came up finally down to a list of 15 substances where there were solid controlled trials from other people's labs, not from Isagenix or from mine, that showed that these substances had a positive effect on brain function. And that they were all nutraceutical substances. In other words, they were providing nutrition for the brain. That's what a nutraceutical does. It provides nutrition. And it's because it existed maybe 100,000 years. Our DNA has been interacting with that substance, and it had learned to use it. And that's very important. The things that our DNA learned to use are the ones that it will use best. new things that it's never been in contact with, and it hasn't, our DNA, by the way, hasn't changed for 10,000 years. All the time we've had agriculture, our DNA has been pretty much exactly the same. And 10,000 years ago, pretty much people had the same brains we had today. They couldn't do what we do today because they didn't have all the knowledge that has been developed since then that we have access to. That's the only difference. We're not any smarter than they were. So we put all these things together into two supplements. We found that we could, that the average person, their brain starts to deteriorate by the time they're 35. And we can measure a deterioration in memory, we can measure a deterioration in balance, and we can measure a deterioration in speed. Now, I'd like the people in this room to stand up. I think some of you may have done this before, but if you could just stand up. This is a valid test of where your dopamine system is in the brain. It's one of the tests that's used for people who have cognitive impairment. So I want you to stand on one leg, and then when you've got your balance on one leg, I hope you can balance on one leg. You've got your balance on one leg. Now I want you to close your eyes. Close your eyes. There's some people, they better make sure they've got a handhold. I've heard some terrible crashes in the room. Right, now, let's start again. Okay, now we're going to stand on one leg. Now you know what it's about. And we're going to get our balance and close your eyes. And I'm going to count to 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Well done! Excellent. Now we see the effect of being a personal trainer for 29 years. She kept her system. Now, those of you who have failed to do that, or maybe could only have 3 or 4 seconds, then that's an indication. It's not a controlled one, of course. We do it much more controlled way, but that's an indication that your dopamine system has declined in the brain. Now, if you have teenage children and you ask them to do it, in about 2 or 3 tries, they will get it. And they'll stand there and you'll think, how the hell can they do that? That's because their dopamine system's still growing. So, we did all sorts of testing like that, and we did we worked on various systems in the brain. The acetylcholine system, when it goes, you lose your memory. And the dopamine system, when it goes, you lose your balance. So those are 2 major systems in the brain that deteriorate. You know that the biggest cause of death in older people is a fall. And it's a fall because they no longer know when they're standing upright. They don't know anymore. Their brain doesn't know anymore when they're standing upright. So they hit the ground very hard because they're halfway down before they even realize they're falling. Now, those are very important systems to maintain. And so those were 2 things we worked on. But the thing that really gave me a lot of faith in the whole of business of maintaining the brain was neurogenesis. Now, neurogenesis I first saw in canaries at Rockefeller University in 1981. That is, adult canaries could grow new cells in their brain. Now, most people who were educated before 2005 will think that what I was told, that you get a certain complement of brain cells at birth and they gradually deteriorate. And up to 2005, that was correct in the textbooks. But in 1981, Nottbaum showed it in canaries. 1997, 2 colleagues of mine, Rusty Gage and Peter Erickson at the Salk Institute in San Diego, showed it in human beings. And that changed the world. because it meant that old people could grow new cells in their brain and restore their function. And that was a new thing, brand new. So what did we do? We looked at every study in the world that sought, after about 2003, there were hundreds of studies going on, and all the textbooks were changed by 2005, but we sought those studies that had tried to generate neurogenesis in animals, and because we haven't had any human trials yet, but we know certain parameters, and in fact we have had human trials now showing that neurogenesis can be stimulated in the average human adult. And that's just change. It's a game changer. In fact, on September the 10th, Nature, one of the top scientific journals, they had one of the brain stimulation exercises on the cover, and that was the headline: game changer. Game changer. It meant that older people, given the right stimulation and the right nutrition, can regenerate their brains. And that's an amazing thing. And that's my goal. My goal is to make a dent in what we've got now. We have approximately 7 million people diagnosed with Alzheimer's and in North America, and 1.5 or 1.25 to 1.5 diagnosed with Parkinson's. Alzheimer's, major symptom, loss of memory. Parkinson's, major symptom, loss of balance. So they're the same systems that we're working on to generate neurogenesis. And the only way that we know to do this is to improve the stimulation of the brain and improve the nutrition of the brain. And Isagenix has been, I've been very fortunate in that they believed me and said they would support my brain research. And we were able, because of that, to bring out something which is, I know I developed it and I can say it, but it is the most advanced out there. If there's anybody who knows any other thing that's even close, I would like to know about it. Because I know all the folk, I know all the research, and this is about the best we can do. So, as I already said, that neurogenesis was confirmed by Gage and Erickson 1997. This is from a paper of mine showing the way that neurogenesis happens in the hippocampus of the brain, a little area. There's only 2 little areas it happens in that we know, and one of them is the hippocampus. And what happens is, you see those little orange cells on the right, the new neurons? They come from an almost limitless field of stem cells that sits there and generates them. And then they march through the brain following a chemical trail, and it takes them up to 6 months to do this march because they're so small. And it's like marching across the world. And they follow it, and then they spread out into a little garden where the cells are deficient, and they grow like a garden, and they grow about 12 different types of cells, and they look like different little plants. We've seen all this on electron microscopy, and some of them develop into new neurons, and the neurons then develop out branches like a tree and join to neurons existing. It's just such a brilliant process. I wish I could show it to you on film. I can't. But from that came the brain boost and sleep support. Now the 2 things are separate for a very special reason, because in the brain boost itself, we have the 2 systems that I talked about, the acetylcholine system for memory, the dopamine system for balance and for motor movement. And those 2 systems come on in the morning when the light comes and the melatonin in your brain shuts off. And the melatonin system in the brain comes on at night. So obviously we can't mix them. And if you see, and there's some out there, you see supplements where they've got a mixture of things, including melatonin in the supplement, you know that they cannot work, because they work on different systems that come alive in different parts of the circadian cycle. We live on a 24-hour circadian cycle. It's built into our genes. It's built into our brain. We may try to countermand it with willpower and with staying up late and with artificial light and things, but we cannot change it. And we better comply with it if you want to live long and healthy. So that's what we came up with, the two different systems to treat different parts of the brain to the best nutrition there is. Now before I finish, I want to say one thing. I was really pleased when John showed that film of Eric Juarez, because it reminded me of George Bernard Shaw, of a statement by Shaw, one of his well-known statements. The reasonable man strives to conform, to fit in, to mold themselves to the world. The unreasonable man strives always to mold the world to himself. Therefore, only the unreasonable man can make any progress happen in the world. So I want to say to you, be unreasonable. Say, I am going to the top and I'm not coming back. Thank you.
I love it. You're awesome. That was fantastic. Fantastic. Was he amazing or what? Is the mic on? Hello, hello. Testing 1, 2, 3. Should be on. Hello? Okay. All right. Awesome. That was amazing. Amazing. How many of you guys are committed to taking better care of your brain? Absolutely.
Good.
And that is true. I mean, that's something that we really don't consider and really don't think about. That was very interesting to talk about our teeth in relation to, how important it is.
When you clean your teeth tonight, look in the mirror and say, what did I do for my brain today?
That's right. And what are the best things we can do for our brain every single day, Dr. Colgan?
Well, I think one of the best things you can, there's two things that you have to do. One is you have to exercise. This is not an option. This is an essential. You've got to send the oxygen to the brain. The only way to get it up there is to move the muscles.
I love it.
And the second thing is to take that brain boost every morning, take the sleep spray every night. Whether you sleep well or not, it's going to make you sleep deeper and better. And the deeper and better you sleep, better your skin grows, better your organs grow, better you recover from exercise, more strength you can develop, the more of your potential that you can express throughout your life.
Love it. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you so much, Dr. Colgan. All right.